The summer of 1995 was one of those long, golden seasons in the Pacific Northwest that seemed to stretch forever. In the small town of Port Angeles, Washington, just a short ferry ride from Seattle, the air carried the faint salt of the Strait of Juan de Fuca and the deeper, earthy scent of the Olympic Mountains rising behind the town like a dark green wall. It was the kind of place where families planned their vacations around the national park that dominated the peninsula. And for Nathan and Claire Anderson, this was the year they finally decided to take their 6-year-old daughter, Lily, camping in the Hoh Rainforest. Nathan worked as a high school biology teacher in Sequim, 20 miles east along Highway 101. Claire was a nurse at Olympic Medical Center. They had been married 8 years, and Lily, with her sun-bleached blonde hair, freckles across her nose, and a laugh that rang like bells, was the bright center of their world. She had just finished kindergarten and spent the spring chattering endlessly about the rainforest unit her class had studied, moss dripping from ancient trees, banana slugs the size of hot dogs, Roosevelt elk wandering through fern-choked valleys. The idea of actually sleeping there under those cathedral-like cedars and firs had become her obsession. So in late July, they booked 4 days and 3 nights at the Hoh Rainforest Campground, one of the most popular sites inside Olympic National Park. The campground sat along the Hoh River, 12 miles up a winding road from Highway 101, surrounded by temperate rainforest so lush it felt prehistoric. Reservations filled up months in advance during peak season, but they had snagged a cancellation at the last minute. Nathan loaded their old Subaru wagon with everything they thought they might need: a 6-person tent they'd only used once in the backyard, a cooler packed with hot dogs and s'mores ingredients, Lily's beloved stuffed orca named Shamu, and a brand new Coleman stove still in its box. They arrived on a Thursday afternoon under a cloudless sky, the temperature hovering in the mid-70s, perfect weather for the peninsula. The drive-in felt magical. The pavement narrowed as they left the open farmland around Forks and entered the park. Sitka spruce and western hemlock closed overhead, their branches knitting together until only shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy. Ferns brushed the sides of the car. Lily pressed her face to the window, whispering, "Wow," every few minutes. The campground itself was busy but not overwhelmed. Sites were spaced along a loop road, each with a picnic table and fire ring. RVs and pop-up trailers occupied some spots, but most were tents like theirs, pitched by families with kids riding bikes or chasing each other through the underbrush. The sound of the Hoh River, a constant low rush of glacier-fed water, provided a soothing white noise. A short walk away stood the visitor center and the trailhead for the famous Hall of Mosses and Spruce Nature Trail. Nathan and Claire picked Site 42 near the river but not too close to the bathrooms. While Nathan wrestled with the tent poles, Claire organized the cooler and Lily darted around exploring, collecting sword ferns taller than she was. By the time the tent was up, sweatshirt weather had arrived as the sun dipped behind the ridge. They roasted hot dogs over their first campfire, and Lily fell asleep that night listening to the river and the occasional hoot of a barred owl. Friday morning brought a light mist that burned off quickly. After a pancake breakfast cooked on the new stove, they hiked the Hall of Mosses loop, less than a mile, perfect for little legs. Lily was in heaven, nurse logs covered in moss like green fir, maple leaves big enough to use as umbrellas, the air cool and damp and smelling of life. They returned to camp for lunch, and that was when they first noticed the young couple 2 sites down. The man was in his early 30s, lean and athletic, with dark hair tied back in a short ponytail and an easy, friendly smile. He wore a faded REI t-shirt and hiking boots that looked well broken in. His wife was about the same age, petite with auburn hair pulled into a loose braid, freckles like Lily's, and a warm laugh that carried across the sights. They had a small teardrop trailer hitched to a rugged Toyota pickup, and their site was neatly organized. A clothesline with damp towels, a folding table set with a propane grill, a couple of kayaks strapped to the roof rack. The man waved as Nathan walked past to fill their water jug. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" he called. Nathan smiled back. "Couldn't ask for better." "First time in the Hoh?" the man asked, stepping over. "First time camping here with the little one," Nathan replied, nodding toward Lily, who was trying to balance a stick on Shamu's nose. The man introduced himself as Gerald Evans and his wife as Marjorie. They Spokane, they said, both outdoor enthusiasts who tried to spend every summer weekend in the Olympics or the Cascades. We've only been married 12 years, Gerald added with a grin, but this place feels like home already. Marjorie joined them, carrying a plate of fresh-baked blueberry muffins she'd made in their camp oven. Thought your daughter might like one, she said to Claire, who had wandered over with Lily. Lily accepted a muffin with solemn thanks, then promptly asked Marjorie if she had ever seen a banana slug up close. Marjorie laughed, a bright, infectious sound, and produced a small field guide from her trailer. Within minutes, she and Lily were crouched by a nurse log examining a bright yellow slug the size of a cigar. From that moment, the Evanses became familiar fixtures. Gerald helped Nathan adjust the rainfly when an afternoon shower threatened. Marjorie shared her recipe for perfect campfire corn on the cob wrapped in foil when Lily scraped her knee on a root. Marjorie produced a Band-Aid and a gentle story about the time she'd taken a tumble on the same trail just a few years earlier. By Friday evening, as several families gathered around a communal fire pit near the amphitheater for songs and stories, Gerald and Marjorie were right there with them. Gerald played a battered acoustic guitar surprisingly well, and Marjorie led the kids in a round of "She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain." Lily sat between them on a log, singing at the top of her lungs, her face glowing orange in the firelight. Saturday dawned even clearer. The plan for the day was simple: a relaxed morning at camp, then a group hike in the afternoon. The ranger at the visitor center had mentioned that a lot of families were heading down to the river for a picnic near the bridge where the Hoh River Trail crossed, an easy half-mile walk along a wide gravel bar, perfect for skipping stones and wading. Several parents had already started coordinating, pooling food for a potluck-style lunch. Claire contributed a big bowl of pasta salad. Nathan packed juice boxes and apples. Around 11, about a dozen kids and twice as many adults began drifting toward the trailhead that led to the river. Gerald and Marjorie joined in, carrying a blanket and a basket that smelled of fried chicken. Lily was thrilled. She held Marjorie's hand part of the way, skipping along and asking endless questions about nurse logs and whether elk ever swam in the river. Gerald pointed out a bald eagle perched high in a cottonwood. Everything felt easy, safe, communal, the way summer camping was supposed to feel. At the river, the group spread out along the broad gravel bar. Kids splashed in the shallows while parents unpacked food on driftwood logs. Someone produced a frisbee. Laughter echoed off the water. Gerald and Marjorie settled near the Andersons, sharing their chicken and accepting pasta salad in return. After eating a few of the older kids started talking about the wild blackberries that grew thick along the edge of the forest just upstream, big, fat ones that were just starting to ripen. Marjorie's eyes lit up. "Oh, those are the best," she said. "Gerald and I picked gallons of them last year." One of the mothers laughed. "I'd love some, but I don't want to drag all the little ones through the brush." Marjorie glanced at the cluster of children playing nearby. "Why don't I take the ones who want to go? It's only a few minutes up that game trail there." She pointed to a narrow path that skirted the tree line, well within sight of the picnic area. "We'll fill a couple of containers and be back before you miss us." Several parents shrugged and nodded. The spot was close, the trail obvious, and Marjorie seemed so capable. Lily bounced on her toes. "Can I go, Mommy? Please?" Claire looked at Nathan. The blackberry patch was literally 200 yards away, visible the whole time. Other kids were going. 2 boys about 8, a girl Lily's age from Site 28. Marjorie would be with them. Gerald had stayed behind to chat with the adults. "Sure, honey," Claire said. "Stay with Mrs. Evans and come right back when she says." Lily beamed, grabbed a small plastic bucket Claire handed her for berries, and dashed off with the others. Marjorie waved reassuringly as the little group disappeared around a gentle bend where alders overhung the river. The adults lingered, packing up leftovers, watching younger kids build cairns in the shallows. Someone checked a watch. It was nearly 2 o'clock. The berry pickers had been gone about 20 minutes, plenty of time for a quick harvest. Claire shaded her eyes, looking up the trail. She expected to see colorful shirts bobbing back toward them any minute, but the trail remained empty. At first, no one panicked. 20 minutes stretched into 30, then 40. Claire mentioned it casually to another mother packing up a diaper bag. kids have been gone a while, haven't they?" The other woman glanced at her watch. "Probably just lost track of time. Blackberries are addictive once you start." Nathan stood and cupped his hands around his mouth. "Lily, time to come back." His voice echoed off the trees and dissolved into the rush of the river. Nothing. Gerald looked up from where he was folding the picnic blanket. "Maybe I should go check," he offered. "Marjorie knows that trail like the back of her hand." A couple of fathers volunteered too. The three men headed up the narrow path, boots crunching on gravel. The rest of the group continued cleaning up, though conversation had quieted. Someone started gathering the kids who had stayed behind, suggesting they head back to the campground. Claire tried to stay calm. It was broad daylight. The berry patch was close. There were 4 children and a responsible adult, but a small, cold finger traced her spine. Lily was only 6. She wasn't the type to wander off alone, but she was trusting. Too trusting sometimes. The men returned 10 minutes later, faces tight. Gerald spoke first. "No sign of them. The trail forks a little way in. We called, but—" He shrugged, looking genuinely worried. Nathan's stomach dropped. "What do you mean, no sign?" "There's a patch of berries right where Marjorie said," one of the other fathers, a stocky man named Tom from Site 35, explained. "Buckets were there, 2 of them, half full. But no kids, no Marjorie." Claire felt the world tilt. "Buckets?" "Lily had her little blue one," Tom nodded grimly. "It was there, empty." A murmur rippled through the remaining adults. Someone suggested the kids had just gone farther than planned. Someone else pointed out that the 2 boys and the other girl had come back alone about 15 minutes earlier, saying Mrs. Evans told them to go ahead while she and Lily finished filling one more container. Claire's mind raced. The other children had returned? When? She hadn't noticed. She'd been watching the younger ones by the water. The group moved quickly now, half-headed back to the campground to alert the ranger station. Nathan, Claire, Gerald, and 3 other parents pushed deeper along the trail, calling Lily's name until their voices grew hoarse. The path wound through alder and vine maple, staying close to the river for 100 yards before climbing slightly into denser forest. They found the berry patch easily: trampled grass, scattered dark fruit, the abandoned buckets. A few small footprints in the soft earth, but nothing definitive. No sign of struggle. No voices answering back. By the time they returned to the gravel bar, park rangers were already arriving, 2 in green uniforms, radios crackling. One was a seasonal interpreter named Sarah who had led a junior ranger talk the day before. The other was a law enforcement ranger, broad-shouldered and serious, named Mike Delgado. Claire poured out the story in fragments: the group picnic, the berry picking, Marjorie taking the kids, the other children returning alone, the empty buckets. Nathan added details about the Evanses, how friendly they'd been, how experienced. Ranger Delgado's face remained professional, but his eyes sharpened when Gerald mentioned that Marjorie had his truck keys. "They drove the Toyota pickup," Gerald said. "Marjorie wanted to bring the kayaks down. Later if the water looked good." Delgado keyed his radio. "We need to check the vehicles. Site 44, Toyota pickup, Washington plates." Within minutes, confirmation came back. The site was empty. The teardrop trailer was gone. Only flattened grass and the fire ring remained. No note, no forwarding address left at the registration kiosk. The Evanses had paid cash for 4 nights when they arrived on Wednesday. No credit card, no ID required beyond a driver's license that the campground host now vaguely recalled as Washington State. Search and rescue was activated before 4 o'clock. By 5, the Hoh Rainforest Campground was transformed. Volunteers poured in from Forks and Port Angeles. Dogs and handlers arrived from Clallam County Sheriff's Office. A National Park Service helicopter thumped overhead, circling the river valley. Rangers closed the campground road to incoming traffic and began systematic interviews with every camper who had interacted with the Evanses. Nathan and Claire sat on a picnic table near the ranger station, wrapped in blankets someone had brought, though the afternoon was still warm. Claire's hands shook so badly she couldn't hold the paper cup of coffee a volunteer pressed on her. Every few minutes she whispered Lily's name like a prayer. Gerald paced nearby, looking stricken. "I should have gone with them," he kept saying. "I can't believe Marjorie would. She loves kids. She wouldn't." but doubt had already crept into his voice. Rangers had asked him pointed questions. How long had he and Marjorie been married? Did they have children of their own? Where exactly in Spokane did they live? Gerald answered readily. An address on the South Hill, no kids, both worked in outdoor education before retiring early, but the Rangers wrote everything down without comment. Darkness fell early under the dense canopy. Floodlights were set up along the river trail. Searchers worked through the night, combing the forest in grids, calling Lily's name until the words lost meaning. The river rushed on, indifferent. By morning, the reality had settled like frost. Lily was gone, and so were Marjorie and Gerald Evans. Their truck had been spotted by a traffic camera on Highway 101, heading east toward Port Angeles around 3 o'clock the previous afternoon, roughly an hour after the berry-picking group had left the picnic site. The teardrop trailer was visible in the grainy footage. Investigators from the FBI field office in Seattle arrived by noon Sunday. Special Agent Laura Chen, compact and calm, sat with Nathan and Claire in the visitor center and laid out the hard truth. "This appears to be a targeted abduction," she said gently. "The Evanses planned their exit. They left no personal items, no trash, nothing that could identify them beyond the registration card. We're running the plates and driver's license now, but..." She didn't need to finish. By evening, the results were in. The Washington plates belonged to a vehicle that had been scrapped 2 years earlier. The driver's license number Gerald had provided led to a real person, an elderly man in Tacoma who had died the previous winter and whose wallet had been stolen from a senior center months before his death. The names Gerald and Marjorie Evans produced no matches in Washington state records for anyone matching their descriptions and approximate ages. No property records, no tax filings, no employment history. As far as official databases were concerned, the couple who had spent 3 days charming an entire campground simply did not exist. Agent Chen showed Nathan and Claire still images pulled from the traffic camera, the Toyota pickup towing the small trailer, a woman with auburn hair in the driver's seat, a small blonde child visible in the back seat through the rear window. Claire let out a sound that was half sob, half scream. It was Lily, her little face turned toward the window, expression unreadable in the frozen frame. By Monday, the story had exploded across the Pacific Northwest. News helicopters circled the campground. Reporters camped along Highway 101. The Hoh Rainforest, usually a place of quiet wonder, became a media circus. Composite sketches of the Evanses, based on descriptions from dozens of campers, were broadcast statewide. And somewhere out there, beyond the moss-draped trees and the endless rush of the river, 6-year-old Lily Anderson had vanished into thin air with a couple no one truly knew. With the traffic camera footage confirming the Evanses' escape, the investigation pivoted sharply from a local lost child scenario to a full-scale manhunt. By late Sunday evening, just over 24 hours after Lily's disappearance, Amber alerts flashed across every television, radio, and highway sign in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. The alert described the Toyota pickup in detail, a dark blue 1988 model with a distinctive dent on the passenger door, towing a white teardrop trailer with Washington plates that had been reported stolen from a storage lot in Everett 2 weeks earlier. Roadblocks went up on major routes leaving the Olympic Peninsula. Highway 101 south toward Aberdeen, north to Port Angeles, and east across the Hood Canal Bridge toward Seattle. State troopers in neighboring states were notified. California Highway Patrol scanned northbound Interstate 5, while Montana and Wyoming sheriffs watched for the trailer in remote areas known for off-grid camping. Airports from SeaTac to Boise received photos of the couple and Lily, with instructions to flag any family matching the descriptions. Agent Laura Chen coordinated from a makeshift war room in the Port Angeles Sheriff's Office, her team expanding to include agents from Seattle, Spokane, and even Salt Lake City. "They're not novices," she told the assembled detectives on Monday morning. "They chose the Hoh for a reason. Busy season, lots of distractions, easy escape routes into wilderness or highways. We need to assume they're heading to familiar ground." The first wave of leads came from the Amber Alert. A gas station attendant in Hoquiam, 30 miles south of the park, remembered a couple in a blue pickup filling up around 4 p.m. Saturday. The woman bought juice boxes and a stuffed animal from the convenience store. The little girl in the back seat had seemed quiet, but not upset. Security footage confirmed it. Marjorie at the counter, Gerald pumping gas, Lily visible through the tinted window, clutching Shamu. Another sighting at a rest stop near Olympia, an hour later. A trucker reported seeing the trailer parked in the RV section, the couple sharing a sandwich with the child. No signs of distress. By 7 p.m., a motel clerk in Centralia swore the Evanses had checked in for the night, paid cash, no questions asked. But when agents raided the room early Monday, it was empty, beds made, no trace left behind except a single juice box straw under the nightstand. The pattern emerged quickly. Quick stops, cash transactions, no lingering. They were moving south, hugging the coast or veering inland toward less patrolled rural roads. Nathan insisted on joining the pursuit briefings, his face gaunt from lack of sleep. Claire stayed at a nearby motel, surrounded by family who had driven in from Sequim, but she begged for updates every hour. "They're treating her like their own," Nathan said bitterly during one meeting. "That's what scares me most." Chen nodded. "We think so too. Let's talk about who they really are." The breakthrough on identities came Tuesday afternoon. FBI techs cross-referenced the composites with missing persons databases from the early 1980s. A hit, David and Elaine Harper, a young couple from Spokane whose 4-year-old daughter, Emily, had vanished from Manito Park in 1981. The case had gone cold after the Harpers themselves disappeared following a suspicious car accident that killed Elaine's parents, officially ruled accidental, but with whispers of foul play. Photos from the Harper file matched the Evans sketches almost perfectly, aged up 14 years. David's dark hair, Elaine's auburn braid, the same easy smiles. Dental records from a Spokane clinic confirmed it when agents exhumed the accident victims, empty coffins. The Harpers had faked their deaths, likely with help from a shady funeral director who had fled the state shortly after. The motive crystallized. Emily Harper's disappearance had never been solved, but interviews with old neighbors revealed the Harpers' obsession. They blamed themselves for looking away just for a second at the playground. Grief counseling notes from a therapist described David's descent into denial, Elaine's fixation on bringing her back. After faking their deaths, they had reinvented themselves as wandering outdoor enthusiasts, using stolen identities to drift through national parks. And that's when the victim pattern unfolded. Agents pulled cold cases from park services across the West. In 1983, at Yellowstone's Mammoth Hot Springs, a 6-year-old girl named Sarah went missing from a family campsite for 3 days before being found wandering a trailhead in Grand Teton, 70 miles away. She remembered a nice aunt and uncle who took her for a special adventure in their camper, feeding her cookies and telling stories about a lost little sister. In 1986, Redwood National Park in California, a 5-year-old vanished during a beach picnic, reappearing to doodles. Weeks later at a ranger station in Crater Lake, Oregon. Her story matched. Kind couple, trailer rides, vague memories of being borrowed to play family. 7 cases in total, spanning 12 years. All girls aged 4 to 7, blonde or fair-haired, freckled. All taken from crowded outdoor settings where trust built quickly. All returned unharmed physically, but with fragmented recall, suggesting mild sedatives like over-the-counter antihistamines. No demands, no harm, just temporary replacements for the lost Emily. Until now. Lily was the first they hadn't returned within days or weeks. "Why her?" Nathan asked Chen in a private moment. "Why keep her?" Chen hesitated. "We don't know. Maybe she's the closest match yet, or maybe after all these years they're tired of letting go." The manhunt intensified. Undercover agents posed as campers in likely spots. North Cascades, Mount Rainier, even as far as the Tetons. Billboards with the sketches and Lily's photo lined Interstates 5, 90, and 84. The reward for information leading to her recovery climbed to $50,000, funded by donations pouring in after the story hit national news. Tips surged. A sighting in Boise at a KOA campground. False alarm, wrong couple. A trailer matching the description abandoned near Missoula. Empty, stripped of plates. In late August, a breakthrough. A pawn shop owner in Salt Lake City recognized the Harpers from the news. They had sold kayaks and camping gear 2 weeks after the abduction, using cash. Surveillance tape showed them with Lily, who called Elaine Auntie and held her hand tightly. They were heading east into the Rockies. By September, the task force had linked two more cold returns: a girl in 1989 from Glacier National Park, found in Banff, Canada, another in 1991 from Bryce Canyon, released in Zion. Border Patrol tightened checks at Canadian crossings, but the Harpers were ghosts. New names, new plates, always one step ahead. Nathan and Claire returned home to Sikkim, but home felt hollow. Lily's room remained untouched, the stuffed orca on her bed, drawings of rainforests taped to the wall. They started a foundation, Lily's Light, raising awareness for child safety in national parks. Vigils lit up the Ho every weekend, candles flickering against the darkening forest. But as autumn rains returned to the Olympics, the leads dried up. The Harpers had vanished again, taking a piece of every family's summer with them. The years after 1995 did not pass. They accumulated. For Nathan and Claire Anderson, time became a series of anniversaries measured in absence. Every late July, when the Ho rainforest swelled with visitors and the scent of cedar and river water filled the air, the wound reopened. Lily would have turned 7 in August 1995, 10 in 1998, 16 in 2005. Each milestone arrived without her. The intense manhunt of that first autumn gradually cooled. The Harpers, David and Elaine, the names they had buried along with their old lives, proved as elusive as mist in the Olympics. Sightings trickled in for months: a couple with a young blonde girl at a county fair in Pendleton, Oregon, a teardrop trailer parked overnight at a remote Forest Service site near Stanley, Idaho, a man with dark hair and a woman with auburn streaks buying children's clothes at a Walmart in Bozeman, Montana. Every tip was chased by agents who flew, drove, hiked into places most people never knew existed. Every tip went cold. By 1997, the FBI task force had shrunk to a handful of agents rotating through the file. Special Agent Laura Chen kept it on her desk longer than anyone, updating age-progressed images of Lily every 2 years with the help of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The new renderings hurt in fresh ways. Lily at 8, gap-toothed and smiling; at 12, hair longer, face beginning to lose its baby roundness; at 18, a young woman with Claire's eyes and Nathan's determined chin. America's Most Wanted aired updates twice more, in 1998 and 2002. John Walsh's voice grew familiar in the Anderson living room. Tips spiked after each broadcast, then ebbed. The reward grew to 100,000, then 150,000 as private donors, and Lily's Light Foundation added funds. Nathan and Claire threw themselves into the foundation. What began as a simple website and candlelight vigils in Port Angeles grew into something larger. They spoke at ranger training sessions across the West, teaching park staff how quickly trust could be built and exploited in crowded campgrounds. They lobbied for better registration systems, requiring photo ID and vehicle verification at national park campsites. They funded trail cameras and signage warning parents to never let children out of sight, even for just a minute. In 1999, Claire gave birth to a son, Ethan. The pregnancy had been unplanned, terrifying. She spent months gripped by guilt. How could she bring another child into a world that had stolen her first? But Ethan arrived, healthy, dark-haired like Nathan, with Lily's freckles across his nose. They hung her photo above his crib, telling him from the beginning that he had a big sister out there somewhere. Ethan grew up saying goodnight to Lily's picture every evening, a ritual that broke Nathan's heart and kept it beating at the same time. The early 2000s brought new technology, new hope. DNA databases expanded. Lily's profile, built from Nathan and Claire's samples, was entered into CODIS. Unidentified remains from across the country were tested. No matches. Age-progressed images went digital, shared on emerging social media. The Foundation's Facebook page, launched in 2008, gathered thousands of followers who still shared Lily's face every year on the anniversary. In 2004, a potential breakthrough. A couple matching the Harpers' aged composites was detained at the Canadian border near Osoyoos, British Columbia. They were traveling with a teenage girl who called them Mom and Dad. The girl's DNA was tested overnight, no relation to Lily. The couple were retirees from Kelowna with no criminal history. The girl was their biological daughter. Another false dawn. Chen retired in 2010, handing the file to a younger agent named Marcus Reyes. At her retirement party in Seattle, she pulled Nathan aside. "They're still out there," she said quietly. "People like that don't just stop, they adapt." Nathan nodded, throat tight. He had aged into a man with gray temples and permanent lines around his eyes, but the fire hadn't dimmed. The 2010s saw the rise of social media true crime communities, podcasts devoted episodes to the phantom campers, Reddit threads dissected old sightings. A documentary aired on Investigation Discovery in 2015 interviewing Nathan and Claire in their Sequim home, Ethan, now a lanky teenager sitting silently beside them. Tips surged again. A woman in Colorado swore she had taught a homeschooled girl named Emily Harper in the late 1990s. Blonde, quiet, living off-grid with an older couple. Agents followed it for months. The family had moved to New Zealand years earlier. The girl was unrelated. By 2020, Lily would have been 31. The foundation shifted focus slightly, helping other families of long-term missing children while keeping Lily's case active. Ethan, now in college studying environmental science, ran the social media accounts. He posted new age progressions every year, the latest showing a woman in her 30s with laugh lines and sun-bleached hair, the kind of face you might pass in a grocery store without a second glance. The world moved on. New missing children dominated headlines. The Harpers, wherever they were, had outlasted the heat. Agents speculated they had settled somewhere. Remote, perhaps a small acreage in the interior of British Columbia, or deep in the Idaho Panhandle, or even abroad. They would be in their late 50s or early 60s now, maybe living quietly under yet another set of stolen names. Nathan and Claire aged too. Claire's hands developed a slight tremor. Nathan's back ached from years of hiking trails looking for traces that never appeared. They kept Lily's room as it had been, though dust now gathered on the stuffed orca. Ethan brought his first serious girlfriend home in 2021 and introduced her to the room, explaining quietly why it remained untouched. In the quiet moments, Claire still wrote letters to Lily, posting them on the Foundation website every August. "To my brightest light, another year. You would be 32 now. I wonder what your laugh sounds like as a woman. I wonder if you love the forest the way you did at 6. We are still here. We are still looking. Love you forever, Mom." The letters were shared thousands of times. Strangers left comments. "We haven't forgotten. She's out there." And then, in the spring of 2023, something shifted. A wildlife photographer named Jenna Morales was reviewing trail cam footage from a remote area of the Bitterroot National Forest in western Montana. She had set cameras along an old logging road for a project on grizzly migration. One card from a camera overlooking a small meadow showed something unexpected. A cabin, half hidden in the trees, smoke curling from the chimney. And in the clearing, an older couple with a younger woman, blonde, slender, tending a garden together. Jenna froze the frame. The woman's face, caught in profile, bore an uncanny resemblance to the latest age-progressed image of Lily Anderson she had seen shared on social media years earlier. She had grown up in Washington. The case was legend in the Northwest. She didn't hesitate. She called the tip line that still blinked at the bottom of every missing poster. Jenna Morales' tip landed on Agent Marcus Reyes' desk like a lightning strike. It was early May 2023, and Reyes, now the lead on what had become one of the FBI's oldest active child abduction cases, was reviewing quarterly cold case summaries when the email arrived from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Attached were 3 still frames from the trail camera. A weathered log cabin tucked against a stand of lodgepole pine, a thin plume of smoke from the chimney, and 3 figures in the small clearing. An older man with silver-streaked dark hair splitting wood, an older woman with graying auburn hair tied back, hanging laundry on a line, and a younger woman, mid-30s, blonde, slender, kneeling in a garden bed, planting seedlings. Her face was turned 3/4 toward the camera, and even in the grainy resolution, the resemblance to the latest age-progressed image of Lily Anderson was unmistakable. Reyes stared at the screen for a long minute, heart pounding. He cross-referenced the GPS coordinates embedded in the camera data, a remote drainage in the Bitterroot National Forest, Ravalli County, western Montana. The nearest town, Darby, was 25 miles away on winding dirt roads. No cell service, no power lines, the perfect place to disappear. He called Nathan Anderson first. Nathan was in his classroom in Sequim, wrapping up a lesson on temperate rainforest ecology, when his phone vibrated. He stepped into the hall and answered. Reyes didn't waste words. "We have a credible sighting, Montana, a woman who looks exactly like Lily at 34. Nathan's knees buckled. He slid down the wall until he sat on the floor, students passing him in the hallway without knowing the world had just tilted. "Are you sure?" "As sure as we can be without DNA. We're moving now." Claire was at the foundation office when Nathan called her. She dropped the phone, then picked it up again, hands shaking so badly she could barely hold it. Ethan, home from graduate school for the weekend, drove them both to the airport that night. They flew to Missoula, where Reyes met them at arrivals with a quiet, "We're keeping this small until we know." The operation was surgical. No helicopters, no sirens. A joint FBI hostage rescue team task force, augmented by Ravalli County deputies who knew the backroads, staged out of a ranch 20 miles from the cabin. Surveillance drones, small, silent, confirmed occupancy. 3 adults, no visitors, no vehicles newer than a battered 1990s Ford Bronco parked under a tarp. The woman gardened daily, chopped wood, cooked over an outdoor fire pit. She moved with familiarity, not fear. She called the older woman Mom and the man Dad. Audio from a parabolic microphone caught fragments. Laughter, mundane talk about the weather, the garden yield. Reyes briefed Nathan and Claire in a motel conference room. "We believe she's been with them her entire adult life, raised as their daughter. Stockholm Syndrome on a generational scale. She may not remember you. She may fight us." Claire's voice was barely a whisper. "She was 6. She has to remember something." On the morning of May 18th, 2023, 28 years and 9 months after the Berry Trail, the team moved in. Dawn light filtered through the pines as agents in unmarked vehicles blocked the single dirt track leading out. Snipers took positions in the tree line. A negotiator approached on foot, bullhorn in hand, voice calm. "David and Elaine Harper, this is the FBI. Come out with your hands visible." The cabin door opened slowly. David, now 61, hair fully gray, face lined but still lean, stepped onto the porch first, hands raised. Elaine followed, eyes wide, face pale. Then the younger woman appeared behind them, confusion etched across features that were undeniably Lily's, grown into adulthood. "What's going on?" she asked, voice soft but steady. "Mom? Dad?" Elaine reached back for her hand. "It's okay, Emily. Stay behind me." The name hit Nathan like a fist. He was watching from a command van half a mile away, binoculars pressed to his eyes. Emily, the name of the child they had lost in 1981. Agents moved forward. David and Elaine were cuffed without resistance, faces blank with resignation. The younger woman, Lily, stood frozen as a female agent approached gently. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. You're safe." She looked at the older couple. "Dad, what did you do?" David's voice cracked for the first time. "We saved you, sweetheart. We gave you a better life." Lily's face crumpled. Agents led her to a waiting SUV. She didn't fight, but she looked back at the cabin, at the only parents she had known for nearly 3 decades, with tears streaming down her face. At the Missoula field office, the reunion was staged carefully in a soft interview room, couches, tissues, a counselor present. Nathan and Claire entered together, Ethan behind them. Lily sat on the edge of a chair, hands clasped tightly in her lap, wearing borrowed clothes from an agent, jeans and a hoodie that swallowed her frame. She looked up. For a long moment, no one spoke. Claire broke first. She crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to her knees in front of her daughter. "Lily," she whispered, "it's you." Lily stared, eyes searching Claire's face, then Nathan's, then Ethan's. Something flickered. Recognition, or the ghost of it. "They told me my real parents died in a car accident," she said quietly, "that I was alone until they found me." Nathan's voice was hoarse. "We never stopped looking. Not for one day." Lily, because that was still her name, no matter what she had been called, covered her face with her hands, and began to sob. Claire wrapped her arms around her, rocking gently, the way she had when Lily was small and scared of thunderstorms. Nathan joined them, Ethan too, until they were a tangle of arms and tears on the floor. But even in that moment, the fracture lines were visible. When the counselor gently asked if she remembered the Hoh rainforest, the berry picking, Lily shook her head. "I remember a river," she said slowly, "and a lady with red hair holding my hand. But I thought it was a dream." Over the following weeks, the truth emerged in layers. David and Elaine Harper, real names confirmed by fingerprints, had raised her as Emily Harper, their miracle second chance. They homeschooled her in remote cabins across Montana and Idaho, telling her the outside world was dangerous, full of people who wouldn't understand their family. She had never attended public school, never had a social security number, never seen a doctor beyond herbal remedies Elaine brewed. She believed she was loved, protected, chosen. Therapy began immediately. Deprogramming. Specialists flown in from Quantico. Lily moved into a safe house with round-the-clock counseling. Visits with Nathan, Claire, and Ethan were supervised at first, short and structured. There were good days, Lily laughing at Ethan's stories about growing up, tracing the freckles on Claire's nose and whispering, "I have those too." There were hard days, nightmares of abandonment, rage at the Harpers for the lie, confusion about who she truly was. David and Elaine were charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and a litany of identity fraud counts stretching back decades. They pleaded guilty in exchange for concurrent sentences, 25 years each, eligible for parole in 15 due to age and health. In court, Elaine wept, telling the judge, "We only wanted our little girl back." David remained silent. Lily testified via video link. "They loved me," she said, voice steady, "but it wasn't real, and it cost me the life I was supposed to have." By the winter of Sanat 2025, the cabin in the Bitterroot had been sealed as a crime scene, its windows boarded, the garden left to frost and snow. David and Elaine Harper were serving their sentences in separate low-security facilities, their health declining, but their silence absolute. They had refused all media interviews, all contact with the woman they had raised as their own. Lily Anderson, legally reclaimed name, though she sometimes still answered to Emily in quiet moments, lived in a small apartment in Missoula, close enough to the mountains for comfort but far enough from the cabin's ghosts. Therapy was a constant, twice weekly with a specialist in complex trauma, once with a group of other long-term abduction survivors. Some days she woke believing she was still in the meadow, chopping wood beside the people she'd called Mom and Dad. Other days, the memories of Sequim surfaced like bubbles, the smell of salt water on the strait, Claire's lullabies, the plastic orca clutched in small hands. Reintegration was slow, deliberate. She visited Nathan and Claire's home in Sequim for weeks at a time, sleeping in a guest room redecorated with neutral colors. No frozen childhood shrine, just space to breathe. Ethan, now married with a toddler daughter named Lily Rose, became her anchor. They hiked familiar trails in the Olympics, talking for hours about nothing and everything. Little Rosie called her Aunt Lily without hesitation, climbing into her lap with sticky fingers and unconditional trust. Lily learned to drive at 34, earned a GED, then enrolled in online classes for environmental studies, something that felt like coming home. She volunteered at the Hoh Rainforest Visitor Center during summers, guiding families along the Hall of Mosses Trail, quietly watching parents count their children the way she now understood they must. The foundation, Lily's Light, took on new meaning. Lily became its quiet public face, speaking at events when she felt strong enough. Her voice, soft, measured but unflinching, carried a power no one else could match. "I lived 2 lives," she told a crowd in Port Angeles on the 30th anniversary of her abduction. "One stolen, one given. Both shaped me. The people who took me loved me in their broken way, but love built on a lie can't stand forever. I'm learning to build something true now with the family I was born to and the one I choose every day." She forgave, in pieces, not absolution, never that, but release. Letters to David and Elaine went unanswered. She didn't need their remorse. She needed her own peace. In January 2026, as snow blanketed the Olympics and the Bitterroots alike, Lily stood on the gravel bar where it had all begun. The Hoh River rushed past, unchanged. Nathan and Claire flanked her, Ethan and his family a few steps behind. She scattered wildflower seeds along the trail's edge. Blackberries had been cleared years ago for safety, and spoke quietly to the wind. "I'm home," she said. Finally. The forest absorbed her words, moss and cedar holding them gently, the way they hold everything that passes through. Somewhere in the distance, a child laughed on the trail, bright and unafraid. Lily smiled, the sound no longer twisting her heart but warming it. 30 years lost, but a lifetime still ahead. And in the quiet places of the American wilderness, parents held their children's hands a little tighter, remembering that even in the most beautiful summers, shadows can linger. But light, persistent, patient light always finds its way through.